Titan AE is the finale to my Don Blue series of reviews, which is unfortunate, very sad. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna review after this, unfortunately. We'll see. Did really enjoy doing this review series, and this is fun review series definitely to do. I don't know. But yeah, here we are. So, I think for me, this is one of my least favorite Don Bluth movies. Um, Not my least favorite overall. Like, that's probably Thumbelina, Troll in Central Park, and Rockadoodle. I think I hate those movies equally, to be honest. Even though I think one of those is objectively worse than the other. I'm not really sure which because they're all pretty bad. This one, for me, I think is just one of my least favorites because it's got a lot of really good people involved with it, and it just irritates me that this movie isn't that good. Joss Whedon wrote outright this movie. Now you might be thinking, Joss Whedon's canceled, like don't talk about that guy. Yeah, he's a shitty person. But let's be real. His work on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly, the first Avengers movies, and things like that, make him a good writer who's able to do really well done work. And so I think, he gets a lot of shit for the stuff that he does. But I'm sorry, he can do some really good stuff. And fortunately that the man with the talent has to be that shitty, but he's a very talented guy. And so I do see a lot of his humor in this movie, but it doesn't really always work the greatest. It's Don Bluth, who I love Don Bluth. That's why I'm doing this review series. And it's just really good animation team doing great animation and all this stuff. And it's sci-fi. I love sci-fi. There's just a lot of things that would make me gravitate towards a movie like this. But I watch it, I'm not engaged. I'm bored out of my mind. I barely remember anything about it every time I watch this movie. I've seen it twice now. Once before this and another time for this review. It's a nothing burger of a film. It really is. It's kind of weird because this movie, I think the biggest problem with this movie is this movie, ignoring all of its production issues, which I don't even want to go into those, just because I think they aren't that interesting to talk about with this one. Just that it was just basically a bunch of Fox executives meddling because their animation team was falling apart and their studio actually closed down after this movie failed. But I think, that's seeing all that, you realize why this movie kind of failed as a directorial piece. Like, you don't even feel that Don Bluth was really directed behind it. Because he hadn't really directed a sci-fi movie like this. He didn't really know how to helmet, and you can feel that. It doesn't even feel like his movie in any way, shape, or form. It feels more like Joss Whedon directed it, and in a way he kind of did via his writing. But my real problem with this movie is just, it's not even that. This movie feels like a sequel to a movie we never got. The story and setup to this movie is really bizarre. It kind of just throws you in this world, these weird characters that aren't very good, aren't very interesting, and almost kind of just expects you to know them and connect with them. I don't. And then the more the movie moves along, I'm just not really interested in any of these characters. And the animation is good, but not good enough that it stands out at all. The CG animation is actually pretty impressive and still holds up in some cases. Other times it doesn't. The soundtrack is a little bit dated for this movie, but for me, I'm just sitting here, I'm not really engaged in this movie. It's just not even reading stories about this movie, watching YouTube videos, I get nothing out of reading or watching this stuff because I don't really care about the film itself. I don't really find its story interesting. It's just kind of there. One thing I'm sad about is that the last Don Bluth movie we will probably ever see is a movie that does not feel like a film he directed at all. It feels like something that he kind of just had his name attached to. In the same way, there's tons of movies out there that have produced by this dude, and then they all they did was put their name on it and get a check, sort of thing. I don't know. It's a really sad movie in a lot of ways. Shutting down Fox Animation's department. that was eventually replaced with Blue Sky, and then was eventually acquired by Disney and shut down, and now there is no Fox Animation Department. It's just such a weird movie. It's such a weird film this director to direct. It's really nothing like any of his other movies, and it's just not very good. And I don't know. I mean, this is a movie that I would love to see like comics too, like kind of explaining some of the universe. Maybe help me get more engaged with this universe, but we'll probably never see that because this movie kind of sucks ass, unfortunately. It's not a terrible movie. I could actually see how there are people out there who probably do enjoy this movie, and I can imagine why. Because there is some stuff here that, that's, well, none of it's great. It is interesting enough that I could see someone getting involved and interested in, but for me, it just, as a huge sci-fi nerd, as a Don Bluth fan, as a Joss Whedon fan, in terms of his writing and his directing, this didn't work for me. Fuck. I don't even know.